Okay, hi friends, it's Chris back here of Light and Joy Designs with the Ananda Wraparound Skirt Crochet. And if you are watching this with the original crochet along, you've just previously watched me making the final rows, and I chose to do 26 rows. And I wanted to give you an update on how that all turned out. If you are watching this from the beginning and you're just about to start the skirt, this information that I'm going to give you replaces the weight gauge that I had in the beginning. Because this was a crochet along, the sizing was approximated based on the weight gauge of my swatch and the pattern. So once I made it, once you start crocheting, your sizing is going to look a little different. As things stretch out, as your gauge evolves, if your stitches become a little tighter, or if the yarn stretches a lot as it becomes heavier, different factors can make your sizing larger or tighter, smaller. So in this case, I had originally been anticipating that we were going to need a little bit over 2 of the Hobby Twister cakes. That's this yarn here, Hobby Twister, hobby.com, HOBBII. We were going to need a little bit over 2 for the smaller size and close to exactly 2 for the larger size. So the original, when we started out the crochet along, I thought that based on all my calculations, that we were going to need about 1,300 for the smaller size and about 1,900 for the larger size. Well, when I finished this skirt, like I said, on mine I did a total of 26 rows in pattern plus the 4 rows of the waistband, so a total of 30 rows altogether. I didn't use up all my yarn. I had about this much left of the original skein. So I wanted to figure out, that was quite a bit less than what I was anticipating. So what I did was I took a look at my original swatch and realized that it was probably heavier than, it wasn't really a large enough swatch to get an accurate feel for what I was going to need. So what I've done after the fact is I've made another new swatch here, and I wanted to go over with you those details and give you the new yardage amounts. So my skirt in the end ended up 50 inches at the top edge and probably somewhere around 120 to 125. It's probably 130 inches if you stretch it out fully, which was what we wanted. That was the goal. And mine is, if it's laying really flat, it's about maybe between 21 inches, but if I stretch it down, it can be as long as 22 and a half inches. So it's right about where I wanted it. I'll just call it 21 inches. I had been shooting for 22 inches, so that's really good. And the total weight of my skirt altogether is 213 grams. An entire cake of twister yarn is, in this case, mine was 270 grams to start off with. So that can explain some of this leftover, because it was actually 20 grams more than what it said on the label. The label says that it's 250 grams. So this cake had more yardage in it than I basically got extra in that cake. So so my swatch ended up being a different gauge, my weight gauge, when I remade. So I remade the swatch to just recalculate the yardage needed for you guys. So okay, so the materials, let me just give you here the updated materials. Everything's the same except for the yardage. You're still going to need the number 1 weight yarn, 6.5 millimeter hook, 12 to 16 stitch markers, scissors, measure tape, yarn needle. The prescribed yarn for this is twister yarn from hobbii.com. That's HOBBII.com. And the gauge on that, the weight gauge on that yarn is it's 1,000 meters or 1,093 yards in 250 grams / 8.8 ounces. So here are the updated yardage amounts that you would need. For the smaller size, which covers extra small through extra large, you'll need 1,047 yards. Of course, this is approximate. I can't guarantee that you won't need a second skein, because your gauge might be different than mine. But this is the approximate of what you would need if you made the prescribed small size. If you make the prescribed large size according to the pattern, you will need approximately 1,542 yards. So these are the updated numbers. If you see different yardage amounts in part 1 and part 2 of this skirt pattern tutorial, please refer to these numbers, and these will be the numbers that will be in the written pattern. And my gauge is still the same. 4 rows equals approximately 3 inches. 1 pattern repeat equals 6 stitches, which equals 2 inches. So that means that 12 stitches across equals 4 inches. So that is the materials, and there will be a section on modifications if you do want to make yours even larger or smaller or with more flare on either of the sizes. And here is the skirt completed. I still haven't taken the stitch markers out. I will put a picture maybe in this corner up here of the of what it looks like when it's laying out flat on the floor, but it's super pretty. And the next video that I'm going to bring to you in order here is going to be the video on styling it, and all the different ways that you can wear this garment. I think you're going to be really excited and have a lot of fun with playing with how you can wear it. So, because I certainly did. So that'll be coming up next, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Everything else that I've taught so far is correct, even though I've updated my gauge here and updated the yardage recommendations. Everything else is correct. And I wanted to take a moment to make a note on the large size. So the large size for this project calls for 6 increase sections, these 6 long triangles, and you'll see how that works in a moment. And it's obviously it's longer skirt than the small size. So your flare ends up being about the same as the small skirt because it continues to grow over those extra rows. But I did want to make a mention that, and you'll see this when I talk about the notes on size modification, that you could quite easily make this with the so the small has 8 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, has 8 of these triangles. That grow. You'll see that in a moment when you see the pattern. If you're watching this at a later time on YouTube. If you would like your larger size skirt to have more flare, I would recommend doing the either the 8 sections, or I think in my example I showed 9 sections. Let me just pull that up here. Yeah, so I gave an example in the modification section, which you'll see more of this later on, that you can increase it to 9 of these increased triangles instead of 6 that are in the let's just call it the standard pattern for the large size. If you like flare in your skirt and you really want that extra flare, then you could quite easily go to this size, have 9 sections instead of 6 increased sections. And let's take a look at how much more yarn that would take. Okay, so I just quickly did the math. If you do the 9 sections instead of 6 sections on the large, you will end up needing 1,860 yards. So that's still under 2 skeins of the Hobby Twister. So that's 1,860 as compared to you would need 1,540 yards if you make it in the standard size of this pattern. And all of this will be in the written pattern too. And you'll see this as you go along. So just wanted to make that note. On the large size, if you do want to have a little more flare, you'll be able to safely do it and still stay under the 2 skeins. And of course, if you do want to make it even larger, you can do that and just follow the pattern and follow the directions that I give you on calculating your yardage if you're making modifications. And I guess that's it, and I'll see you in the styling video. Thanks.